All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Support webinar. Today's date is March 18th, 2019. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is going to be Basic Use of Object Trader and Trade Setups, Part 2. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar. Other webinars we might have, our live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, if not, we're going to go ahead and get started. By the way, let's diagnose a chart first, because obviously when you're trading, you need to diagnose your chart, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show our little webinar template, which everybody knows is on the website under the templates and workspace. If you don't have this, I highly recommend it. I like it, okay? If you can see it without it, that's great too. You know, you don't really need it if you can see these things in real time. Okay, but I found that this particular template just kind of filters the noise out, because here's what I see when I look at a chart like this, okay? I see basically that you have a low here, a high here, and you don't know what your low is here, so let's go ahead and click on Lightning 2 so that we can tell where it's at. All right, so far, it looks like you have a low, you have a high, you have a higher low. We don't know just yet. Okay, but does everybody see how you could use Object Trader on this chart pretty easily? You know, for instance, if this thing's going to go ahead and break down, obviously you probably had a midband trade here more than likely. Okay, but you can also clearly see this with that Lightning 3 swing there too, right? Okay, and that's the whole reason that we developed Object Trader with some of the features that it has, is so that you can take some of these trades like this. And by the way, if you diagnose your charts correctly, you know, you're just always going to make money trading. It's not that hard to make money trading on practically every trade if you just simply diagnose your charts correctly. You notice that in the room, it's not bunk at all, that we actually do call those trades in the right spots, and people get in nicely green, and you know, we all do well in our trading. I think on Russell today, that trade that was called was over 100 tick run, 120 or so. Okay, so you know, you can definitely make money trading this system. Okay, now we've already diagnosed this chart, so we know what we're going to do, right? Let's go ahead and look at we'll do two charts tonight. Okay, quick diagnosis of this chart right here. Okay, let's draw our Lightning 2. All right, does anybody see what I see on this chart? I see a thrust, a retrace, and a thrust. Okay, so you could actually, in your mind's eye, do this. You could say, you know what? Basically, it's doing this. Let's go ahead and change this to a lighter color. And it's doing this, right? And it's doing this. All right, now that's all we know so far, right? But notice, for instance, if you were trading this with your real live money and everything, looking to the left to trade the right, you could pretty much draw a line across this area right across here, and that's pretty much where your trade's going to be. Everybody see that? Because what it's doing, it's coming down and it's checking the previous support level, thrust, retrace, thrust. Okay, then you have a thrust, retrace, thrust over here. If we're going to get higher lows, we're going to obviously head to the up direction. So as traders, we need to be able to use the tools in Object Trader to take the trade. Now let's look at the chart real quick and see where we're actually at on, well, we'll look at CL first. How's that? We'll look at CL first. All right. And let's go ahead and put Object Trader on the chart. Go ahead and do that. And And let's see, we've got, yeah, 4 is enough. We'll leave it at 4. All right, so we'll just go to replay mode. Now, does anybody see that you already missed the trade, right? You missed the midband trade, okay? But we did draw a trend line across the top on the other one, like so, okay? And you could also say, you know what? If this actually goes ahead and breaks, now since we didn't get in here, anybody know where we have to get in? Don't go chasing a trade. You know, for instance, if this is going to break down, to me, it's going to have to break this swing right here, come back and kiss it, okay? Otherwise, you're not really taking that trade unless it retraces back up here and we can box it in again, okay? Because that's already in the thrust part of the trade. Everybody see that? Now, basics on Object Trader is simply your region box in. I don't know why this silly thing goes on the side here. Just a second. Let me do it a different way. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can get this to show those boxes because I want it to show everything that I'm going to show here. Bear with me 1 second. And I'll go ahead and bring up that black chart instead so that we can have everything where we want it to be. Because what I want to show you is when you drop down this little box, for some reason with this particular monitor, this box goes not right where it drops down where it's supposed to. It goes clear over onto another monitor sometimes. I haven't figured out exactly what's causing that. Okay, but anyway, we use the region, which is the boxes. We use a bar close type trade. Now this particular type trade is more if you get down to like a support level for a bounce, or if you get to a resistance level for a rollover. Okay, you can use the power meter. Okay, I'd highly recommend going with the particular trend. And we do have predictor trades. We're going to talk about those a little bit tonight too. The ray trade, I don't know if anybody uses this anymore, and we may even take it out of Ninja 8. Okay, because the ray trade is actually where, let me just show you what ray trade does. It's a basic little trade too. You hit insert. It's one of the ones you hit insert on. All right, and then you just simply move it where you want it, do something like this with it. Let me get rid of these other. We'll put ray back on. Well, hopefully I didn't mess up ray. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and do this. See, this is the ray trade right here. Now, I'm not really super fond of the ray trade myself as much as I am the wedge trade. Okay, the reason is because we designed this actually to be like a channel. Okay, so for instance, what you can actually do with this, you can do an offset with it. Like let's say if I did like a 6-tick offset and then hit enter, that's what it's going to do. And it's going to do it based on what color this box is. Okay, notice how I've got short here or long here, and the middle doesn't count. This is where the trade actually gets, triggered, is at the top line or the bottom. And you can do this any way you want it. It's actually a pretty neat little deal, but it's designed to be a channel. Okay, so for instance, if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to go long at that bottom even, see, I could just hit enter, and if it did take out this trend line to the upside, then we might be able to get like, a trade starting here. We can even turn it on auto and have it just fire like one and then fire another one here or something like that. So you can do anything with this that you can do with the region. Okay, and it can be done any way you want it to. You can move it anywhere you want it or anything like that. But like I said, to me, this was actually kind of the newer part of Object Trader 3 years ago or so. And I don't like to have to hit enter to do anything. You notice that we totally re-engineered the region box. Anybody that's been with us a long time, before you had to hit insert, and then you had to hit enter. And then if you wanted to move it, you had to enter again to turn it gray. Then you had to move it. Then you hit enter again. I did away with all that. I paid the programmer, pretty decent money to change all that. We didn't, however, change the ray. Okay, so tonight what I'm going to talk about is more the wedge, the region, and probably the PM trades. Okay, so if you want to get rid of the ray on here, all you have to do is hit insert and it goes away like so. Supposed to. There we go. All right, and anything you choose on your object type is just in this little window right here. So for instance, if I want a wedge, I just simply click wedge. This one I just draw a trend line with, like so. And I don't think you have to worry about the third dot in this like you do on True Trend, but as a rule, I go ahead and bring my dots inside the prices, just so that the calculations are accurate. Okay, because what this wedge is doing on this chart is drawing, mathematically on this chart, and, it's got to know when to trigger that trade. Okay, now if you're using the wedge and the prices underneath it, it's the T button. Okay, so you just simply say that's my T button right there. If I wanted to do, let's say for instance, I wanted to do a breakout trade and I did a wedge across here, like so. Let's just say we did a little breakout trade. If it breaks that, we could simply do short outside like that, and probably about 2 ticks is what I usually like to do. Okay, and then set it on however many contracts you want to, whatever that is. Okay, so that's actually a wedge trade, that's set up right now, except that I would be taking a breakout if it happens to go through the bottom of this. Okay, I might even want to move my wedge just a little bit just in case, so that I don't get wicked into it, because if it's really going to break, then maybe I want to do it a little bit different than that. Okay, so you can move this wedge anywhere you want it to. Now, let me show you real quick. We'll go ahead and do this. By the way, I took this trade this morning. I was Skyping with a few people, and they asked me where I got in the trade and everything. And actually, what I was looking at over here was you had major support right under here that they just broke, just barely over here. So when they kind of went back above that support that's now resistance, I actually moved my trend line like this. Now, this was a gutsy trade, but it actually turned out to be a good one. I just simply put my trend line like that. Notice when I'm moving that trend line, it actually still works on here. And by the way, I had that on auto, so obviously we just got ourselves 4 contracts. If you get into a situation like that and you don't want 4, go ahead and sell a couple real quickly. Okay? Always look to the left to trade the right. I like to usually move 2 targets out of the way, quickly move my chart to see where they're going. I got resistance across here on Lightning 3. That would be a pretty good area for a first target. And I have another one right over here. And I usually just do like this when I'm trading. I just draw my charts, and that's where I kind of want my targets to hit. Okay. How many of you use the wedge feature on Object Trader? It's a pretty good feature. I like it a lot. Now, I wouldn't have been in 4 here. I wasn't even this morning on my own. I apologize for leaving that on auto. That's one of those auto features that we have built into Object Trader, and it will fire as many times as it touches that ray. So be careful if you use auto. Can you hit the sell buttons and only exit 2 or 4 contracts? Absolutely. Let's say, for instance, I want to just sell 2. Sell 2. That's it. That easy. Okay? So it is real easy to, if you happen to get into too many, for instance, if I just wanted one of these contracts, I could simply sell one like that. I can add one. I can even do bar close like long, and see if a bar closes up, it'll add one. Bar closes up again, it could add one if I turn that on. See, it's a pretty cool feature. Okay, now keep in mind you would probably want to take some coin because it's just now hitting that top. So I'd be very, very careful, just in case this is a phantom type trade. Okay. And by the way, you can also utilize this tool. Let me slow this down just a little bit and show you something else. What if you had 3 contracts in and you simply wanted to take 2 off if it happened to break a trend line. Could you do that with Object Trader? Okay, I've got 3 in. If I want to take 2 out, I just simply do like touch plus 2, and it'll take 2 of those off and leave 1 in. Or I could just simply get out of all of them. Okay, whatever you set this for. I mean, even if I set this for 4, it doesn't matter. It'll only get rid of 3, unless I hit the reverse button, and then it'll reverse to 4 to the opposite side. Let's see, no more comfy with PMI to get. I use the wedge line, but I stay on the bar closer region. I use it for a helper. Okay, good. Yeah, no, it'll just exit however many. Like if I just wanted to exit like 2, to give an example, maybe I want to let this thing see if it had run. You know, something like this. Maybe I want to exit 2 here. If it touches this line by 2 ticks, okay, I can even move my line so that it's right even with the bottoms of those. See how I'm doing that with the trend line? This is a pretty cool engineered part of our system right here. I love this particular feature. I don't like it on close, but I like it on touch. Okay, and the reason for that is because you can mimic close anyway. You know, if you want to just set it for 4 ticks underneath the line, that's pretty much close. Okay. Let's see, Gary, can you go back to RTY? I was curious on that chart. Sure. Matter of fact, on RTY, if you would have been using this simple little tool, look at this. Could a person have been in that trade right there? And actually, you could have boxed this in also, right in here, right? The way we teach, so that you could actually get that trade long. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the power of these tools, you know, because, you know, when you think of bars on your chart, isn't it actually forming a bunch of lightning swings, zigzags, and everything? And so therefore trend lines work, boxes work, you know, and to me, those are 2 of my favorite tools for sure. All right, now if this breaks this trend line, what if I wanted to just get out and go flat? Okay, because if this hits its head here at all, it's coming back to here. You can almost count on it. Let's see, the black chart RTY. You show, oh, the black chart RTY, sure. See, now this is actually basically what you're looking at now, because keep in mind on a zigzag type chart, you haven't necessarily changed yet. Let me see if I can get a lightning 1 here. Yeah, see, that's basically where you're at. So, you know, if you were to, for instance, draw a trend line like right across here like that, you know, could you actually enter that trade with Object Trader? And the answer is yes. And that's, again, why we designed it that way. Okay? Notice how this is checking right on top of my swing to the left. So could you box this in? And the answer is yes. You know, it's checking right where you thought it would. And let's see where our little chart is over here. Now it looks like it's going to get us out. There you go. See how that did? Basically, when it touches that line and touches 1 tick and touches the second tick, that triggers the algorithm, and then it has to have 1 more tick to get out. Okay? Now, the way we teach this all the time, does everybody see where you get a thrust, retrace, thrust? Don't you think that more than likely you got a trade sitting right in here on this chart, like right down here? So could you actually be ready to take that trade if it happens to touch within 2 ticks of that bottom? Because you're trying just to get down to here. And what if it actually decided to break? Well, I wouldn't take a breakout unless it decided to at least do some retracement for me. You know, so obviously if it breaks above resistance, you're going to want it to kind of pull back. Now, is that actually what we call a phantom trade? Yes. Yes. Could you have actually shorted that where I got out of that trend line? Yes. Okay, because that is a phantom trade. Now, I don't personally like a phantom trade as much if you break these lightning 3s. But if you do take them, what you want to do is you want to just pretty much short line 6 and try to go down to midband. Okay, let's see if I got any other questions here. Using PM1, do you also have to set it for close or touch plus 1, 2, etc.? No. What you do on PM, I'll just show you what you can do on PM. See how that came down to the bottom of my box there? Give it a little wiggle room so if it's going to go ahead and stop there. And I would probably, if I was trading this, more than likely do one like that if it comes out of the top of the box too. Simply because usually as a rule, if they do that, they're pretty much heading up. But this is two of the most simple part of our system, and that's the boxing in and the trend line. Okay, now if you use PM, one thing I want to tell you about PM that you got to be careful of, it only does zigzags. So for instance, whoops, got us, didn't it? Let's go ahead and go again. Came down a little bit lower, not worried about it. We'll go again if it comes back up through there. Oh, I see where it's going, right here instead. If it makes it, let's see. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and go again. 2 there. Touch inside. Touch inside, by the way, means it has to touch inside by 2 ticks. I can change this to 1 if I want to, and it just has to do 1 more confirmation tick. Well-designed little tool. I hats off to our programmer on this little puppy, I think. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our targets out of the way. Look to the left to trade the right. Obviously, you can see a swing right across here that they're more than likely going to hit their head on, so you'd want to take some profit. And if they break up, 93 would be another one that you could also put a target at. Something like that. Let's see, what were you saying about PM to be careful about? What I'm talking about on here, Louis, is if you look to the left to trade the right, if you don't have any kind of zigzag over here, you will not get a PM possibly until it takes out this top here. What PM does is just simply watches for this action. It needs a low and a higher low, and then a higher high. And it will trigger it. Okay, but what if you actually just got this instead? You got a thrust, and it never came back and made any kind of your lightning at all, which happens, by the way, in 4-range charts. So that's what I was saying. The only thing you got to be careful of, because there is no lightning over here on the left. Unless this algorithm looks at this one too. I don't know if our programmer did that or not. I imagine it looks right here. See this little thrust, retrace thrust? It may look right here. Let's see when it changes, if it goes up there. Watch lightning. We'll see exactly when it changes. Now it will. See the lower high? It should turn when that closes above that swing. Should. There it is. See? So that, see, as long as you can get lightning, you're okay. And all it takes on lightning 1 is simply a low, a high, and a higher low. Isn't that cool? That's a neat little feature, by the way, on ObjectTrader. But you got to be careful because, for instance, right now I've got longs going, but I can't get lightning to re-strike, so to speak. But I can get lightning 2. See how lightning 2 is still red meter? See how it just went green? That would have fired another one if you wanted it to. Okay, I like lightning more for the retraces, and I like to draw trend lines. I like to use the little boxes. For instance, I was talking with one of the guys this morning on Skype, and he boxed this trade in like this right here. and got that trade. I don't remember exactly where he got it, but it was somewhere right in here. But what if you missed it? What if you just absolutely missed it? Have we got trades that we've got that we can try again? And the answer is we do, don't we? Because what's a trade that we look for? We look for minimum criteria. So what am I actually looking for here? I'm looking to break stealth. I'm looking to break line 6. That's my criteria right there. If it gets down below this line or even this line right here now, this would be what we call a minimum criteria trade. Okay? Let's see if we got a minimum criteria. I'm pretty sure. See, there's minimum criteria right there. See there? Close below stealth, close below line 6, and off you went. A monster trade too. Okay? So, learn to watch for that particular trade also, because when they thrust up, they're going to come back and they're going to check, an area. And if you draw on your charts correctly, they'll more than likely nail it for you. Okay? Now, like I said, very soon we're going to have an indicator that's going to actually yell at you if you want it to. I'm hoping that it'll not be like a computer voice that you get sick of hearing. I don't know exactly how he's doing the audio part of it, but it needs to say CL minimum criteria long. And then we as traders need to go, oh, wow, I see it, box it in, and take the trade. Okay? And with a tight stop, because couldn't it have come lower? Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, a lot of times when I see this come down this far, I usually see them come back and check this swing again, and they didn't, which is good. That meant they were in the mood to go up. But when you draw on your charts, you could have expected them maybe to come down this low too. Okay? So that's why a trade like this can be extremely important for you. Okay? Now, let's look to the left to trade the right and see if anybody else can figure out. Yeah, go long dummy is what it'll say, Louis. Yeah, it won't be quite that. That would be funny, though, wouldn't it? Now, the thing is, keep in mind that just like any trade we get into, you still have to diagnose. Now, it will not look for this trade. Notice how this trade right here went above line 6, then closed below line stealth. Why wouldn't it call it? Anybody? Because it's still got the short midband. Now, is that a good trade still? Yes, and we would still take it. But the way I'm designing this indicator is it's only going to look, well, it wouldn't have even gotten this one actually, though, see, because the midband was still rose. So there'll be times that you'll want to take them regardless. But I don't think it would be a good idea to have it call every single one of these, because markets don't always move like this. Okay, so I've got it designed to where it will only look for that minimum criteria trade with a green background and a green or blue midband. Okay, but still doesn't mean you can't box it. And I'll call it still in the room. And you could still take this regardless. Okay, because it did meet criteria in my opinion, because it was starting to stair step up. Okay. All right, so if you missed the trade, let's see if anybody can get where the trade sets up next. Anybody remember this little trade in the room this morning? Yeah, right now I would say you got a thrust, retrace, thrust. You have not checked this area right here just yet. And notice how that's perfectly at midband. So that's where I'd be personally looking for a trade because it hadn't checked it yet. Now, what if it just did a minimum criteria trade? Could you actually take this? And the answer is yes. And what I would probably do would be to go something like this. Just go for like a 10 ticker. And see, it's already closed above line 7 already. Okay. But you also have a swing right across here that they haven't checked yet. And if it touches that predictor, I would probably take it for 10 ticks. So let's see if we can get it. Does anybody remember this trade I called in the room this morning? Came down perfectly and kissed our predictor, okay? And watch how you can add to your bottom line on here. Really, definitely. Watch this P&L go up when you get a bounce off a predictor like this, especially if you do any kind of multiple contracts at all. I would definitely protect my coin just in case. Probably exit on close. Okay, let's fast forward it for just a second. And see, there you got you a trade. And look how that P&L jumped up. Okay? Now, where do we still expect to trade on here? Has it checked here yet? The answer is no. Do you remember the trade that we called in the room this morning? Watch how beautifully you can count on trades coming on when you get a green background, your midband and everything, you expect a midband trade at some time or another, don't you? And that's what we like to see, is those nice midband trades. Okay, so could you be ready for that trade? Could you be ready for that trade? Absolutely you could, because you know where it hasn't been yet, and you also haven't been to midband yet. That's awful close right there. Didn't quite come down there. Now, just in case this was to decide to pop up from here, could you draw a trend line? Yes, you could. See how beautiful of a trade that was? Remember that trade? We took it in the room this morning, and it did cost us about 5 ticks of heat, but it turned out to be a really good trade. Let's see if that goes. You got 4 in now. Anybody remember that little trade? I don't know if you remember or not, but let's go over some other features, basic features on Object Trader. Because what I like to do personally, if I get in a trade and I want to really try to ride it for a gusto at the open of a market at all, you've got to wait for the little zigzag to happen. Okay? Put your stop just under the swing. That's what we said this morning, remember? Just underneath here. Now, you could take some off. Obviously, if you had some coin in this, you could sell to real easily just by hitting the sell button. Okay? But you got to give it some wiggle room for any kind of runner, because you've got to have what we call lightning, stair stepping. Now, could you have gotten in this twice? Yes, because you could have stopped out right here. But see how it bounced right off the support again? Could you be ready for that one more time? Sure. Then put your stop. It's right underneath the swing. Okay. Now, one thing that I personally like to do, and by the way, this trade was called live, so this is just showing you how to take it, but the trade was called live in the room this morning. Okay. Now, if you're going to trade and really stay in the coin, I would highly recommend using some kind of a scale out method. Okay. Now, to scale out of this, does anybody see kind of a little trend line you could draw right here? So could you say, you know what, if this comes down at all, I want to go ahead and scale out of a couple of those contracts. That's the bottom one, so obviously this would be this button here. If it touches +2, we'll get rid of 2 of our contracts. If it doesn't touch it, we're happy. Okay, that way we're not riding 4 all the way up. Or maybe we are, if it holds the trend line. Everybody see that, how cool that can be? You're on region. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Wedge, short. Thank you. All right, if it goes 2 ticks underneath it, it'll get me out. If it doesn't go 2 ticks underneath it, it won't get me out. And that's a pretty decent trend line, because I drew it based on a thrust and a pullback. How awesome trend lines can be in your trading, especially if you use them to scale in, scale out. See how that got me instantly to 2 contracts? Pretty cool. Now look to the left to trade the right. I would probably at least let it come down to here and look to the left to trade the right. Might even let it only come down to like this area right across here. Well, even right here. But notice that it's still heading up, so we're good to go anyway. Okay? Now, what if you had totally missed this trade entirely? Again, watch for your minimum criteria trade. You're looking for line 6. You're looking for a break of stealth. And that's a little sweet spot underneath that line. For right now. Now, if it keeps going up, that'll obviously change. But right now, that's where stealth is, and that's where line 6 is. Everybody see that? So could you actually get in that trade if it comes down anywhere in that area? How about a predictor too? May not get to the predictor. That came awful close. That's closed below it. See there? Closed below stealth. Closed below line 6. Could you be in that trade again? I'd put a pretty tight stop if you did, though. And then just let it stair step. Everybody see that? How easy that can be to do? Okay? Keep in mind, though, when you do minimum criteria trades, my personal opinion is that you want the blue or the green, and you want this green background. Even though this was a great minimum criteria trade right here, and I still would take this trade, that indicator is not going to tell you that trade's setting up. Because to me, it's too risky, especially if they start going choppy sideways. Okay, it's gonna warn you about the better ones. You know, for instance, this one here that's set up. It's going to tell you about midband trades that set up. It's going to tell you about this one here that we just did just a moment ago. Okay? Now, will it tell you here? No, because see, it never touched line 6 or stealth. It actually closed above stealth. Well, it closed below it there, but it didn't close below line 6. Okay, you want to see if that little theory works? Let's go ahead and see if we can get another minimum criteria trade at all. Draw your lines on your charts. Okay, we know that line 6 is here. Stealth's right on it right now. Is that a minimum criteria trade setting up? Anybody? What do you think? I would say it is, wouldn't you? It's closing below. So let me ask a quick question. Could you, if it bounces off of here, could you go ahead and take this trade? That's like a little bit of sport right there. Okay. Could you draw a trend line on it? Do a wedge? Like that. Could you do that? The answer is yes. Absolutely. Let's see. I thought it had to close below line 6 completely. Not the whole bar. Just close below line 6. See, because this closed below line 6 right here. Let me get this line out of the way. See how that closed right there on that bar? That's closed below line 6 right there on that bar. And it closed below stealth for sure, right? Okay. If you ever have a question about the bars, you know, a lot of people can't read candles as easily. Just go over here to your candle type and change it to open, high, low, close real quick, and thicken up your bars. See, you can clearly see it close below right there on that bar. I can read those candles. For some reason, you know, you just got to be able to see the one before the one you're going to read. See, like right now, see, there's where the price is right there. How'd you enter? Bar close up or just hit buy? Well, what you'd want to do, you don't want to just get in the habit of, you know, clicking buy just in case it goes lower unless you're quick to get out of a trade. you know, a trend line break, a little box in trade, you know, can pay off pretty nicely. See, like right now, that's one tick above that line. If it goes one more tick and then a confirmation, it'll fire. Now notice that it didn't, so it's going to have to do it again. Okay, because it didn't go 2 ticks above. Now the line's at this angle, and see, it could be a better entry, because trend lines will get you better entries as you go lower, obviously. See, like right here, for instance, if it goes 2 ticks above, it'll fire that. Should. We got 2 on, that'll give us 4. See where the tick of the bar is right there? It's not above the line yet, is it? It's right near it. It's on it. That's not quite 1 tick. There's 1 tick. There's 2 ticks. But it hadn't confirmed it yet, see? See how it's just on the line? Let's change it to 1. That's on the line. Kind of slowed down there, didn't it? Look at that trend line, though. Isn't that beautiful? The way, see, now you'll even get a better entry on this thing even here. And by the way, you could reset your trend line before it ever fires it too, if you want to. Now, that was pretty much the trend line when I first drew it, but see how it kind of wicked through it? You could redraw your trend line so you don't get wicked into this trade. Let's see if it fires it. Now we got 4. You see, I don't personally like the open, high, low, close bars, but if you do, that's fine. Pretty cool. Okay? Everybody see how you can do this now? You know, you utilize your trend line, utilize your boxes. You know, you can even, for instance, if I got 4 on and I want to use power meter to get out of like 2 of them, all I got to do is just turn on short. This doesn't have anything to do with power meter, by the way. I can leave those even inactive. It does not matter. Okay, if that actually closes below that swing right there, that will get me out of 2 contracts. Watch it go red if it does. See, it didn't go red. Still didn't go red. Still didn't go red. Still not red. If you get a lower, a higher, a high, a low, and lower, now if it breaks it, that looks like a double top, so it probably wouldn't do it till here. Okay, see, it did change to red. See how easy and cool that is to use? It's just a really good featured little trading system on there. All right, let's close it and let's see if we can get into another trade. And we're going to use like a trend line. Y'all want to use a trend line to get in this trade? We got to have one set up first. So let's see, we've got a little thrust retrace. So let's draw a trend line. All right, and we'll keep drawing it as this thing goes. I'm going to go back to candles. That bugs me. I love my candlesticks. You're starting to get a little where you could actually do it more like this now. Everybody see that? Box it in, couldn't you? Oh, it's going a little bit deeper. Oh, I'm on PM, you're right, instead of wedge, duh. That won't give me anything. Well, you can clearly see I would have gotten it, though. Okay. Yeah, be sure and check your object type because that's really important. Yeah, there you go. Let's see, because PM2 is broken in red, thought it would check lower. Well, keep in mind the one thing that you want to do. Let me just show you something on here real quick. We didn't get that trade because I didn't have it set on the proper way. But anyway, let's go ahead and kill this wedge. May give us another opportunity. See this predictor down here? Now, usually what I do in a case like this is draw a trend line. And if it holds that trend line, I'll usually get in a trade like that instead. Something like that. Okay, put your stop just under the swing just in case. Everybody see that? And let's see what happened. This is getting closer to the end of the, no, not quite the end of the day. Choppy sideways. Or turn on power meter, absolutely. Power meter goes red, you take it off the table. There you go. See there? Pretty cool features we built into ObjectTrader. Now, like I said, these are just some of the more basic ones, but if you want to use a little bit more advanced type features, you certainly can. You know, for instance, this morning when we got in this trade on oil, remember this trade? We had our lines drawn on our chart, like so. Well, come on. We had our line drawn on our chart, like so. And notice, see, thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace. You always got to draw your lines that they haven't checked. See, that's the beauty of trading this system. Notice how that picked it exactly. So, for instance, if you got in at midband, like Charles and I did this morning, okay, and what you would do is you would actually just simply draw your little box. Of course, you do it with region up here. All right. And remember I said I was going to take one? And it comes back. It doesn't take us out. Could you add when it took out the top of that box again? Let me show you how to do that with ObjectTrader. I'll show you how to do that. Let's back up to 825 just real quick. Bear with me a second. I'll show you how to do that trade. We'll go to 822. Bear with it just a second. It'll change. Why do the candles are red when it's going long? Well, that's Louis, that's the beauty of the system too, is that you want those candles to go red even when it's long because it's a deeper retracement. You know, the thing is a person's got to look at is with the background and the midband, those red candles are more important. But when it's, you know, for instance, when you get this red candles down in this area right here, those are perfect areas to go long. I mean, they're absolutely perfect when they get down around that phantom. This is a sweet spot to me on trading, right? Right here. Well, and you're going to have an indicator that's going to warn you when it gets there. We're going to have an indicator that'll actually tell you if it's in that area right there. But it's going to also say, is my midband lime green or blue? Because it's not going to look at that phantom obviously here because everything's red. This could have headed on down. So it's going to be, you know, first time phantom after a trend change. And it'll warn you on that. Now, what I've been teaching people to do for a number of years is you always want to wait till you start stair-stepping back the other direction. Or, for instance, if you get no background change to like that neutral color background that we have, then you don't really have a phantom trade, but you do have a deep bar probe trade. Okay? So, for instance, if I was looking at this trade like right here, I'd be looking here, never touched it, and I'd be looking here. And everybody sees that, right? Just look on the left side of the chart where it hasn't checked yet. Okay, so it hasn't checked 81 or 76. All right, so let me show you how you can get this little trade right here. Draw your region, just hit insert. By the way, when you hit insert, it always draws with the last two candles. Okay, so you don't want to put your box here to activate it. You want to bring it down in here. Okay, because you know it hadn't been here and it hasn't been here. So could you actually take the trade if it comes to that box by simply turning it on and just do the one like I did this morning, because you don't know first thing in the morning if they're going to just slam the thing, you know. But if they respect support and resistance, then you've got you a lot better trade. Let's see, that's set on region right there. And I'll show you how you can actually do this little trade if you want to. You can turn this on auto. Okay, now this is on auto right now, but you'd have to be careful, because if they took out this resistance right here, they're no longer heading up. Okay, but let's say that, for instance, that you get in one. Okay, remember where we got in this on the midband this morning? You don't even have to wait for it to do anything but just touch midband, and you got you a pretty safe trade. Okay, see how that got in one? Now, if I've got this on auto, this is going to keep firing until it gets to my total contracts. See how that got to 4? That's because that's an auto feature that's built into this. Okay, now let's get this out of the way for just a minute, just so I can show you some things. All right, now, what if you didn't want this many contracts and you thought, whoa, maybe this is going to take this out? You can always get rid of them one at a time, you know, just by simply clicking it. If you had more contracts, you could even get more if you wanted to. Okay, but that's the power of being able to use this auto feature on Object Trader. But it's also a feature that can get you in trouble if you don't know what you're doing. Because 4 contracts, to give an example, 10 ticks is $400. So, you know, you want to be careful if you ever jump in 4. It's a great way to make money. There's no question about it. Okay, but it's also a great way to lose money if you're not careful. Usually what I do is put this couple of ticks under, exit on close. Okay, now, was that a safer way to enter? No. The way I did this morning was a lot safer. I simply took one contract, held, and when it crossed back through the box I had in my mind, I added. And by the way, with like 4, to give an example, you know, this thing added up very quickly with 4. You can clearly see that what it did today was phenomenal. See there? I mean, we just kept saying, oh my goodness, look at oil go. Remember? We just kept saying, is there any end to it? Look at that. Now, would you hold through all that? I kind of doubt it, because see, that went from 22 all the way to 08. That's 14 ticks. 4 contracts is $560. Okay, so more than likely what you would do is like I did earlier, draw you a trend line, scale out a sum, and then ride your runners. Remember when I said I still had 2 on? That felt some heat, but I will not go to midband. You know, Charles, he'll go to midband. I won't. You know, now in Russell, you pretty much have to on a $5 instrument. But just think of ES to give an example. If you go from phantom top to midband, that's 24 ticks, 2 contracts is a $500 bill. Okay, but if you don't let it retrace some, at least in this minimum criteria area, you'll also never get these runs where it just goes like crazy, like it did. See, and that can add into some major, major money. Okay, so, you know, you don't have to let it come all the way back to even line 6. You'll notice, too, that they don't always necessarily hold line 6. I do notice on oil, when it gets moving, it does hold line 5. But that's still 18 ticks back from the top. And how many times have you given 18 ticks back and then all of a sudden it turns into 25 ticks back and you hold it to mid-band, you think, well, is it going to stop? That's not really the way to trade. But stair-stepping lightning is a good way to trade. For instance, let's say that you got in at this minimum criteria. Just draw lightning on your chart or in your mind even and see where lightning is. And you can clearly see that you've got to swing all the way down here. That's too far to me. But if you happen to get another one, just keep staying with the trade. You could do it just like that. You could draw a trend line. For instance, if you got 4 in, draw you a wedge trend line. Get out of some of them. Touch +2. You don't even have to have your stop if you don't want to. You can have it way down there if you want, just in case you want to ride this thing for like a gusto. But you would be able to scale out simply by doing the wedge, not region. Wedge, like that. Now keep in mind, if this is on auto, that will get you out of all those contracts if it touches that line several times, so turn that off. Okay? Let's see, Louis said, so if it's a red, magenta, rose, midband, and red candles are going, yeah, you're definitely looking, strictly for those short type trades. And one other trade that we are looking for on this new indicator is this one right over here too. It's going to look at this, it's going to look at this, it's going to look at this, and it's going to start going, hey, you're breaking lightning 3. Come back and kiss, draw a box, and take it. Okay? This is going to be some pretty cool ways to trade, I think. I think everybody will like it. It works quite nicely. We're working on Ninja 8 to totally get it finished up. I only did 1 off that, didn't I? I'm going to get rid of 1 more. So you can just turn that back on and it'll get rid of 1 more. If it even touches that line. Will it be simple, similar to 7, I hope? Well, Louis, Ninja 8 is not quite as simple as 7, although it's not that difficult either. I mean, it looks just like this. We've already got the indicators done. We just don't have Object Trader done. Okay, does anybody have any questions on this? How you can utilize these basic features on Object Trader, which I think make a really good way to continue trading. Use your wedges. We haven't even talked about Time Trader. I don't personally use Time Trader as far as actually set it for time, but since we developed the indicator after, we had built Time Trader already in Object Trader, I pretty much just look at the boxes and I see where was my support before and things like that. Like drawing your chart. You draw your line, you draw your line. And could you short that little box break? You technically could, right? Because it's trying to retrace. But keep in mind that you can also get whipped sideways on these type of boxes like that. When is Ninja 8 going to be ready to use approximately? Well, David, I was talking to my programmer on Saturday, and he said that he has got all the code in Ninja 8 now for Object Trader. He's going to give me some still basic, the way we have to do this, we have to kind of do it in steps. Even though he's got all the code in there, he's going to just, for instance, he'll do the buy and sell. So we can make sure it'll do, stair stepping in, stair stepping out and all that. Then he'll do, like a region box and things like that. So even though he's got all the code in it, he's going to start turning it on for me so that I can start testing it. And naturally, as I test it, it should work just like 7, obviously. But if you're familiar with coding at all, Ninja 8's a nightmare compared to 7. Ninja 8 is, like totally the difference in night and day. It's not even the same code at all. They did a lot of changing on Ninja 8. That's why it's actually taking as long as it has. Because Object Trader is not a quick piece of code to change out real quickly. It's a pretty major piece of code. Okay? So does everybody now pretty much see that when you get up in the morning, first of all, diagnose your chart. What's it doing? You know, am I getting higher lows and higher highs on Lightning 3? Am I, flattening out? Have I got a real tight channel? Let's see, will I have problem with 8? You think not being computer savvy? No, Lewis. It's just a little different. Let me just show it before we wrap, just real quick. Bear with me a second. I'll go ahead and pause the screen and I'll show 8 real quick. It'll take just a second because I'll have to turn on the data feed too. Bear with it just a moment. Okay, where'd you put my control center? 8. There it is. All right. Ninja 8, and we'll have webinars on this too because I'm going to walk you through everything about it. One of the things I really love about Ninja 8 is tools, database management. You can actually roll over your contracts real easily. For instance, if you want to roll over CL, from 4 to 5 or whatever, you just simply set it. You can even set it to automatically roll over. Okay, and when you click rollover, it just automatically rolls them over. That's a pretty nice feature. Okay, and let me go ahead and put a connection on real quick. I think I've got a connection on this one. Bear with me a second. Let me see if yeah, that connection works. I play a lot with Ninja 8, while we're developing and everything. Let me show you what it looks like. Bear with me one second. We'll go ahead and bring RTY over. Okay, here's Ninja 8 with our indicators. Okay, now let's see. It looks like that data's still messed up for rhythmic. Notice that I just put it on this chart. That's not correct. But anyway, let's pretend it is. Okay, because we don't really care. But this is what Ninja 8 will look like, just like you've got now. Okay, you will have some ability to change colors, I think. Let me look at the indicator here real quick. Power trend. Let's see here. Yeah, you should be able to change quite a bit of the coloring and things like that. Your lightning now will be totally different where, for instance, it's 4 range, 1 strength. That looks like that's 1 strength. And you even choose what power meter index you want it on. And the way I did it personally is this is Lightning 1, this is Lightning 2, this is Lightning 3, and this is Lightning 4. But they're the same indicator. Okay? So when we send out the template, everything will work just perfectly like it's supposed to. Okay? And I'm just getting used to all this myself even. But when you go to Object Trader, right-click and go to Object Trader, it's a strategy over here, and you just simply click Enable. And then it'll come up with this little panel right here. Okay, now this panel's not active just yet. It will be very shortly, I'm hoping. He's even telling me that by the end of the month, which is only 13 days away, that I will have complete Object Trader Ninja 8 and our new indicator Ninja 8 and indicator Ninja 7. So you will have the choice of that new indicator on both Ninja 8 and Ninja 7. And that's costing me an extra, $800, but that's no big deal. Okay? So, we're here to make sure that everybody can make money trading. That's the whole idea of trading. We want you to have the best indicators that the industry has and the ability to, utilize everything, regions, all the way, everything. Okay, on the panel, can we change the colors? Well, Mindy, right off the bat, no. But the reason is because what we're doing right off the bat is an absolute conversion to conversion. So in other words, everything that's in Ninja 7 is going into Ninja 8. And you have to do it that way, because if he starts, from scratch, like, building, we talked about this even with him, just starting Object Trader from scratch. But he said it would be much easier and less bugs, because we went through a lot of bugs with Ninja 7 even that I fixed long before y'all ever saw them. And even some that we found after you saw them. But with Ninja 8, we're going to try to make it a smooth transition to be exactly like Ninja 7. And then I plan on getting this button where it'll do, like a split button, buy, markets over here and then limits and stops over here. Same thing on sell. I plan on doing quite a bit with it. But, it may be well into the year before any of that gets done, because I've got to test everything that he's going to send me. And we've got to make sure that everything works. Okay, will there be exit on close? Absolutely. There it is right there. Even reverse at target. I don't know if any of you seen this, but, we've got reverse at target already on Ninja 7. Do you realize that if you were trading, for instance, this morning when I drew the box and said, oil would hit its head and pull back, could you actually have a chart where you reverse that trade there? You can actually reverse at target 1, 2, 3, and 4, just the way you want to do it. Pretty elaborate stuff, and some of this makes that programmer, and he's a good programmer. But I'm here to tell you, this little jewel's got a lot of code in it. You use exit on reverse on replay, and it works great. I'm chicken when it's in the morning. Well, I have used reverse myself even. But the thing you got to be careful of on reversing a trade is simply this. Let me just show you real quick. Let's say that you were short on oil this morning. Okay? Let's say you were short on oil this morning, like this right here. All right, let's say that you box this in and you set your exit on close like right here to reverse. Well, for one thing, exit on close might not have filled until, say, right in here somewhere. And all it did is kind of come up and then pull back. So you wouldn't have gotten much on an exit on reverse to begin with. Yeah, I'm pretty cautious on reverses, because usually what you're going to get in on is the thrust. And if you wait for the pullback, you're going to get a lot better trade to begin with. And I played with that in Sim too, Mindy, on your question. And reversing a trade doesn't always work. But if I reverse a trade, I can promise you this. If I would have reversed this trade like right here on that line, and it went up and got me 10 ticks and then came back in my face, I would have been out of that thing in a heartbeat. But then I would have seen this box here and boxed it in, took the long. But you got to be careful on reverse also, because there's times where it just barely takes out something and then shoots back the way it was going to. Okay, everybody get something out of this webinar. I hope you did. We try to make this the absolute best that can possibly be out there on the market, so we can all trade and make money. Okay, and your suggestions are always coveted and welcome. All right, thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And keep in mind, by the way, oil even this very moment is still bouncing off that support. I don't know if anybody's watching it or not, but it's actually breaking up a little bit. All right, thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll do this again tomorrow. Be careful tomorrow with some of these major runs that they had today. Did you see Russell break down after we closed the room? It was unreal. Dropped like the same 100 and some odd ticks. All right, thanks again, everyone. Have a great one. Good night.